They once called him the Buddha of country music, the man with no hate in his heart. But at 92, that halo's cracked. Willie Nelson isn't preaching peace anymore. He's pulling back the curtain, and he's calling out 7 artists who betrayed him, mocked his beliefs, or turned friendship into straight-up rivalry. Some were legends, some were family, and one name, you won't believe he ever despised them. First, Garth Brooks. The showman Willie never trusted Garth, built an empire off country music's bones. But Willie swears he also buried its heart. Back in the 90s, while Willie was still riding dusty fairgrounds with Trigger on his lap, Garth was flying above packed arenas, surrounded by fireworks and flashing lights. To the crowd, it was magic. But to Willie, it was a funeral for everything country music used to mean. "You can't sell struggle if you've never lived it," he told one of his bandmates. The tension finally boiled over in 2004 at the Country Music Hall of Fame on stage. Garth smiled wide, calling Willie the conscience of country music. Cameras loved it, but backstage, Willie gave him a cold stare and whispered, "Next time, sing it like you mean it." That one sentence tore through Nashville like wildfire. From that night on, Willie refused every duet, every shared stage, every photo op involving Garth Brooks. Second, Shania Twain. The queen who broke Willie's faith in country, Willie Nelson, never cared for glitter or glitz. But Shania Twain made him furious. For a man who'd built his life on raw honesty, watching Shania turn heartbreak into choreography felt like betrayal. Their feud started in the late 90s when Shania's crossover hits ruled every radio station. Nashville was thrilled, but Willie wasn't. He told a sound engineer, "Country is supposed to bleed, not sparkle." The breaking point came at the CMA Awards. Shania snagged Entertainer of the Year. While Willie sat stone-faced backstage, he muttered, "Entertainer maybe, but that ain't country." Moments later, Shania approached with a smile and a handshake. Willie nodded once and walked right past her. He believed she'd traded truth for trends, pain for production, soul for sequins. Third, Waylon Jennings, the brother who turned his back. Out of everyone on Willie's list, the name that cuts deepest is Waylon Jennings. This wasn't some PR feud. This was family. They built the outlaw country movement side by side. But behind the friendship, something darker was brewing: jealousy, resentment, and silence. By the late 70s, Waylon was done watching every headline say, "Willie and Waylon," instead of Waylon and Willie. The order of 2 names shouldn't matter, but in Nashville it did. And it drove Waylon wild. He started showing up late to sessions, drinking harder, arguing over songwriting credits. Then came the breaking point. One night in the studio, Waylon lost it and shouted, "You're too stoned to play straight." Willie didn't fire back. He just smiled, said nothing. But that silence cut deep. Their friendship cracked that night and never healed. During a joint interview in the early 80s, Waylon half-joked that Willie was a hippie in cowboy boots who forgot where he came from. The press laughed, but Willie didn't. He walked away quietly after the cameras stopped rolling. And that was it. He never called again. When Waylon passed in 2002, Willie didn't show up to the funeral. Instead, he sent flowers and a note. "See you on the road somewhere." That was Willie's final goodbye. A peaceful way to hide the truth that the wound had never really healed forth. Toby Keith, the patriot who pushed too far. Willie Nelson didn't just dislike Toby Keith. He flat out couldn't stand what Toby turned country music into. Willie once said, "A guitar should never wave a flag." And everyone knew exactly who that jab was meant for. At a veteran benefit concert in Austin, Willie showed up to play for unity, not division. But then Toby took the stage, waving flags, shouting slogans, turning the show into a campaign rally. Willie watched from backstage, furious. When Toby walked off, Willie stopped him cold and said, "You're using music to fight, not to heal." Toby laughed and kept walking. From then on, Willie refused to play any festival or charity show that had Toby's name on it. Behind the scenes, he called Toby's act a commercial wrapped in camouflage. Fifth, Merle Haggard, the friend who crossed the line. When Merle Haggard took a jab at Willie, it wasn't just another artist throwing shade. It was a brother cutting deep. These 2 men had shared buses, motel rooms, and songs that built the outlaw country movement brick by brick. It started small. Jokes during interviews about how Willie's activism had turned him into a mascot instead of a musician. But then Merle said it again, this time live on stage with Willie sitting just a few feet away. The crowd erupted in laughter. Willie didn't laugh. He just kept strumming his guitar, finished the set, and walked straight to the tour bus. From that night on, their bond was broken. The joint album Willie and Merle had quietly planned just vanished. No explanation. No announcement. Years later, when Merle tried to make peace, Willie's only response was, "Some things you don't joke about." When Merle passed in 2016, Willie called him one of the greats, but never one of my best friends. That missing phrase said everything. Sixth, Chris Christopherson, and the words Willie never forgave. Can one sentence really destroy 40 years of friendship? For Willie Nelson and Chris Christopherson, it did. It happened at a private fundraiser in the mid-2000s. Willie had just finished performing a soft political ballad. When he stepped off stage, Chris, half buzzed and surrounded by friends, said, "Willie's turned into more of a mascot than a musician." Laughter broke out, but not from Willie. Witnesses said he froze for a second, then turned and walked straight outside without saying a word. By the next morning, his assistant had canceled their upcoming duet. After that, every call from Chris went unanswered. When people asked about the fallout, Willie only said, "Sometimes words don't fade, they stain." Chris tried to apologize through a mutual friend, but Willie wouldn't take the call. "You don't get to call me brother after that," he said quietly. And just like that, 4 decades of loyalty vanished overnight. Seventh, Kid Rock, the wild one who crossed the line. When Willie agreed to record with Kid Rock, fans thought it'd be a wild collaboration. But what was supposed to be fun turned into one of the ugliest studio fallouts of Willie's career. They met in Nashville around 2008. Kid Rock pitched Willie a bold idea, a loud, rebellious anthem that mixed country grit with rock chaos. Willie, always open to taking chances, said yes. But the moment Kid Rock walked into the studio, beer in hand, blasting his own tracks, Willie knew something was off. Musicians there said Kid ignored every bit of direction, yelling, "Let it be raw," while drowning Willie's vocals under distortion. Willie tried to bring some balance, but Kid just laughed and said, "Come on, old man, loosen up." That was the final straw. Without saying a word, Willie took off his headphones, stood up, and walked out. The session ended right there, silence echoing through the studio. The track was never released. Later, when a journalist asked what happened, Willie only said, "Some fires are better left unlit." Since that day, Willie has turned down every single offer to work with Kid Rock again. After decades of peace, rebellion, heartbreak, and betrayal, Willie Nelson stands where few legends ever do, alone, but unshaken. 92 years of songs, scars, and lessons have carved him into something bigger than fame itself. The world still sees the braids, the guitar, and the smile. But behind that calm face is a man who's buried too many friendships and watched the industry he helped build twist into something unrecognizable. Willie never hated without reason. Every feud, every fallout came from protecting something sacred: truth in music, honesty in lyrics, and respect for the roots of country. When others chased glitter in politics, Willie chased the soul. He never wanted perfect. He wanted real. Even now at 92, his memory is sharp and his words still carry weight. When he speaks, Nashville listens. Whether they admit it or not, those who crossed him, Brooks, Twain, Jennings, Keith, Haggard, Christopherson, and Kid Rock, each left a different kind of mark. Some cut deep, some faded over time, but all of them remind us that even legends bleed when loyalty breaks. Still, Willie isn't a man defined by anger. He's defined by truth. He's not out to destroy anyone. He's just done pretending everything's fine when it's not. For him, peace isn't about smiling through the pain. It's about standing tall, guitar in hand, and saying what everyone else is too scared to say. Willie Nelson never sold his soul for fame, and he never bowed to the glitter. He stayed true when the rest went chasing spotlights. And maybe that's the real reason his story hits so hard. Because in a world full of noise, Willie still knows the value of silence, the kind that speaks louder than any song and lasts longer than any apology.